Welcome in, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto podcast. How you doing? I'm one half of your host, Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host, Crypto Ewok. We have a terrific show for you tonight. If you are seeing the thumbnail, yes, we are talking about are the lows for PulseChain in or are new ones coming? I just went back and looked. We've had this topic as the main feature. This will be our third time. So if that tells you anything, they just keep the lows do keep coming, it seems
Keep
like so
coming.
far. Yeah. So if you guys are getting in here right now, right off the bat, go ahead, throw us a like. We very much appreciate it. We do this every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We appreciate all of you guys being here. Ewok, how are you feeling about everything? The prices, the tenor of the market, just taking the temperature on Twitter. How are you feeling about everything?
Feeling all right. Just kind of riding it out, man. We talked about this a little earlier. I think the more bear markets you go through, the easier it gets through or gets to cope through it. But yeah, just riding it out, man. Trying to stay away from it more than I have to, only staying on top of things to kind of know what's going on for the show here. And other than that, I try not to dwell on the prices. I know we possibly have some more downside coming. Could get uglier before it gets better, but yeah, other than that, man, I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. We got people at each other's throats, as always. It's to the point where it's kind of just, I'm with you. It kind of just garners an eye roll from me, and I keep on scrolling. But
Yep.
you can just tell like what people kind of spend a little bit too much time on Twitter all day, and which ones don't. And it's best to just keep it on moving because hey, we're all going to be here. Together in this, and it's going to last until it doesn't last any longer. So it's just like, if you want to consume shit that makes you mad during that, then go ahead. But I don't think it's going to be your best use of time.
Not very healthy.
No, not really. But just kind of taking a temperature of the prices of everything. So we had about a day after we got off the air last week, Bitcoin took a little bit of a dip down. The rumors that Elon Musk sold like $375 million of Bitcoin or something of that nature. ETH obviously goes down. So BTC is at about 26.4K right now. Ethereum at 1679. And along with that news last week, right after it, which we'll get to this intriguing fact, but right after that gigantic dip, which I believe was Thursday, if I recall, there was the announcement that the SEC is greenlighting an Ethereum Futures ETF, which is pretty funny. So we will talk about that. Pretty funny, pretty convenient, whatever word you want to use. Taking a look at the PulseChain ecosystem prices. Hey, again, this is the topic tonight. Pulse itself, the actual Pulse token, is razor close to the previous bottom the day after the SEC news broke a couple of weeks ago. It is at, that'd be what, 62% or so below SAC rate. It had been at about 67% below SAC rate. I believe it about wicked down to. On that news, PulseX way down, 89% down. It's basically at its low or very close to it. We have HEX on both chains. Don't look now, but they're tightening a little bit. I don't want to give that too much attention or somebody's going to come in here hating on me, but we've got HEX on PulseChain at 6.5 tenths of a penny, and HEX, classic HEX, eHEX, whatever you want to say, is at about 3.5 tenths of a penny. So yeah, Ewok, what do you make? First off, talk more about the legacy markets. What do you make about this? I'm not going to use, should I use the term manipulation, use the M word? I don't know. But this gigantic, not gigantic for Bitcoin, gigantic drop down last week, followed by the SEC news about an Ethereum futures ETF. What do you make of all this?
So I do. I kind of buy the whole thing with Elon selling it was $250 million worth. That'll make a pretty hefty dip in the markets. Who knows what they were doing with it? Why? As far as the Ethereum ETF goes, I mean, it's good. It's bullish for that because it kind of gives us a little bit more clarity. Whenever the SEC can't make up their mind, and the other folks do it and go ahead and say, well, we're going to probably approve this. Well, then it's good for everything else. That's the one thing that Gensler wouldn't determine whether, they asked him 3 times straight out, yes or no, is Ethereum a security? He wouldn't answer it. So here we go. Now we're getting this approval for the ETF. And, I think everybody just wants clarity. I think that's, the bottom line is we just want them to make some decisions and stand by them. So it's bullish. The only thing that I'm seeing though with the Bitcoin charts is usually we don't paint two monthly red candles in a row, and we have. So it did bounce off the 50 moving average, so it held that pretty nicely. We'll see how that holds up, but two monthly red candles in a row. This time, it's almost like it's rolling over. So we could expect to see a little bit more downturn, and I said it could get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on that. I know Randy Hilarski, I've watched him a little bit, and he always talks about the moon cycles. And I know this month we do have a second full moon. It's the blue moon or something like that. And he stands by that cycle pretty good. So we'll see how this plays out, and then how the full moon affects people, because crazy things always happen. But that's what we're headed into here to close this month out.
I haven't been able to get there on the moon stuff in the Jubilee year or anything myself. I try. I certainly keep an open mind, and I appreciate Randy's stuff. I know Crypto Coffee just had Waters Above on about a week ago, talking some of that stuff. So I keep an open mind, is what I will say anyway. So, but yeah, hey, appreciate you guys being here. Grounded in HEX, Clifton. We've got everybody in the house tonight. So hit us up. Andrew, thanks as well. Yeah. So once again, yeah, that kind of human centipede that we have going of the, so you've got BlackRock, who is going to host a BTC ETF, potentially an ETH Futures ETF, who are custodied by Coinbase, who's being sued by the SEC, who's the organization who is approving these ETFs. So once again, this crazy little thing we have going on. So we'll kind of see how that continues to develop. But again, and I said this to you, Ewok, I think I saw somebody tweeted as well, because I'm not this clever, but with the SEC greenlighting that ETH futures ETF, is this the acknowledgement that it is not a security? And at that point, most other tokens, you know what I mean? At what point do we have an answer just based on their actions?
I hope it's soon. I really do. Like I said, on one hand, we want Richard to fight this and get some clarity, even if it's just for HEX and PulseChain, things like that. On the other hand, we don't want to drag it out, which could take quite some time. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm hoping that somebody else does it for us. And from what I understand, they are now not appealing the XRP case. It's kind of, I believe, a done deal as far as the last I heard. So even though that price has come back to pre-decision already too, if you look at XRP, it's back to where it was right before they made the announcement that they had won the case. So that's also interesting as well.
Right. Yeah, and I want to answer. I was going to answer Grounded and HEX questions there about. We'll just acknowledge this one real quick, and I don't want to spend way too much time, because we are going to get into the actual PulseChain ecosystem prices deep tonight. But don't we all expect HEX to at least return to all-time highs? I mean, don't we all? I mean, yeah, I would say the majority of people that are allowed on Twitter definitely do. I don't think it would be ridiculous. I think at the minimum for me, I would think at least a quarter price of HEX on both chains, making it, over 50 cents total. I think that's a pretty conservative projection. And, everybody would have laughed at that even probably 6 months ago. Not even, but we are where we are at right now. And that's still, where is that at from where we are right now? I mean, that's still a pretty significant leg up. And again, I think that's conservative. I mean, for me, I hate to ever say these words, but that would be like my bottom. That would be like the lowest of my expectations. So what about you, Ewok?
Yeah, I think we're looking more, you're going to have to combine the two chains, because it still hasn't taken full effect on the rest of the markets. People look at HEX and they don't realize, first of all, that there was a copy. They're only looking at the one chain, and they're like, oh, it's down so far, it's never coming back. And we're like, well, there's now two chains, and that's twice the economic energy. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely see us returning to all-time high pretty easily with the two chains combined. How much further ahead it goes, it really all depends on how this SEC thing shakes out and how long it takes. That would bring some bearish sentiment even in a bull market, just the uncertainty alone. Even though we all know green candles definitely make people FOMO, make them buy. Um, I have heard recently, though, there's several people that I've seen, and I don't know if they're doing it just to get a better price or what they're doing at this point, but I've seen them say, well, I'm waiting at 10 cents, I'm getting out. I'm getting out at 6 cents or whatever it may be. There's people looking to exit. So hey, shake them out. You can't keep everybody around with the big bags forever. That's how it plays out. That's how it gets more distributed into everyone's hands, makes it easier to go up, and harder to come down when it's more, broadcast amongst a lot more people. So I think just to answer the question, I definitely see us returning to all-time high, combining the two chains together. So that's my outlook on it.
Yeah. And I think you brought up a good point, Ewok, is, it doesn't have to be, as we have already seen clearly. I mean, it doesn't have to be that, if 56 cents or so was the all-time high, that doesn't mean it has to be like in unison, perfect timing, 23 cents, or no, that my math is wrong. Not 23 cents. That'd be what? 28 cents on both chains. That it doesn't mean like that. I mean, we could be looking at 35 and the opposite of that. I'm not doing math in my head real quick, but you know what I'm trying to say. There could still be a disparity between the two. So we're going to get to that point too, because we want to talk about it, because we have, again, as I said at the beginning, we've seen the band between those two hexes, come together a little bit. Axis Alive has been tweeting a lot about the chart on that and seeing them come back together as these prices have lowered in the last few days. So we're going to get there too. Real quick, I want to talk about this Friend.Tech thing that we have going on. So Sami's been tweeting about it a lot. The social monetization platform based on, it's actually the Twitter API data. So if you've got a Twitter account, or like anybody that has a big Twitter account, whatever it is, whatever your following is, basically on Friend.Tech, you can get on there. You download the app straight off of their website, which I think is just Friend.Tech. And basically everybody's Twitter is right on there. You have to get some kind of referral code, because I believe this is just the beta part of the system right now. But this is really interesting, and I've seen people calling it SoFi, which at first, I don't know how the bank feels about this, but socialized finance. But yeah, basically the rise in accounts, being able to monetize the growth of somebody on a social platform or something like that. I think that sounds like a great idea. I think it's something that was probably inevitable once all these different monetization systems we've seen within crypto started. And I wonder to you, Ewok, I mean, and I'm not saying that, this specific platform is the one, or I'm certainly not investing in any of this stuff right now. But in the ever-changing landscape, to try to predict what new big fad is going to run away with this next bull cycle narrative, because we know we see one every single time. Could this be it? Because some of the ingredients are adding up for me. And I mean, I'm not laughing it off. I don't think it's stupid necessarily. Like, the infancy of NFTs that we've seen over the last few years. What do you think about this, though? Because I don't know. I could really see this being a major narrative in this bull cycle.
Yeah, it's interesting. It definitely makes you wonder. I mean, I think it's a good concept. Will this be the final draft? Probably not. You know what I mean? But like you said, it is definitely a social experiment. Now, wasn't this the same thing though that got leaked of a lot of its data in the first week or so? Wasn't that the Friend.Tech thing?
I saw you sent me something about that the other day. I didn't really confirm whether that was them or not.
I think their APIs got leaked or something got leaked anyway, but it was more personal information, and that's kind of where we have to be careful.
Right.
Yes, blockchain is transparent, but when it includes personal data, emails, real names, things like that people just may not want out there, you have to be careful. So that's kind of where the security model of it comes into play, and how much of that API is public knowledge or who's receiving it. The cool thing about it, and I think Dick Catcher was tweeting about it. I saw that he was kind of digging into it, where he said that when someone buys a coin, it mints more. When someone sells a coin, it burns them. So you're not really focusing on price as much as you are volume. I think the volume is more incentivized than the price, which is a totally different model than most of crypto, because really, Richard Hart says it himself, the only thing people care about is price go up, right?
Right.
So this is a little bit different, where it incentivizes the volume, is what he was saying. Now, I haven't really dug real deep into it. It just, I think it's going to be a neat experiment. I just don't want to be a casualty of an experiment. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not involved. Like I'm not really trying to grow my Twitter page or anything like that.
Right.
I follow people that follow me, and vice versa. I get a new follower, I check them out. If they're into the Richard Hart ecosystem, I'll give them a follow. And then likewise, if I see somebody spouting off a bunch of stuff that I don't want to hear, I unfollow or mute them usually. And so, yeah, it's not like I'm trying to grow my page, but it's an interesting experiment. We'll see how it plays out. I think it's going to be interesting, and I think there could be a lot more spin-offs of this type of thing coming.
That's the interesting thing is, yeah, if you're not even yourself trying to grow your Twitter page or anything, because I mean, hey, Elon's done a great job with that. I mean, the monetization of Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it right now, and people monetizing their tweets and stuff like that. I mean,
Sure.
if you thought it was cringy before to see like the 6 ways that I perfected my body by age 38, and then like some 40 tweet thread or something. I mean, it's going to get even worse now,
Right.
but it's a great idea. Because,
Sure.
like, I mean, yeah, incentivize those people to make good content. Maybe you'll get less shitty threads, or maybe they'll actually be good ones now
Yeah.
because of that. But
I
yeah,
think we're gonna get more people just egging people on, though, too, because they're doing it for
yes,
engagement. So there will be a lot more engagement farming. There was also a comment where he said he was going to get rid of the block, that's kind of
yeah,
scary too, because people are going to have to learn a lot more self-control. You're not going to be able to block people. You're not going to be able to see. And it really pays them when people argue, or
yeah,
say, even if I don't agree with you, I'm just going to say, yeah, you're totally wrong. Well, that farming thing, the comments and the replies is what engages the tally for the monetization. So, people are going to have to reel themselves back a little bit more, and start at least mute people if they don't agree with things, because you get into the confrontations like that, and it only pays them more to continue doing what they're doing that you don't like. So
right. Crypto 7's going to have to see my tweets now.
yeah,
I mean, that's just the way it's
I
going to be.
know.
Not that I tweet much, but yeah. Let me ask you. So, hey, I want to go back to a point because this is something I've been wanting to bring up a couple of weeks and I forgot. You were talking about like some of the people just kind of doing stuff for engagement farming. Now, there's lots of different kinds of engagement farming, but let's talk specifically about like with our ecosystem that we love: PulseChain, HEX, all these things. A couple of weeks ago when the SEC news came down, of course, the Bob Lucases, the big cheds on Twitter, the even Peter Brandt came out. I'm going to start tweeting about HEX all of a sudden. And Bob Lucas has been doing it. He's been kind of a HEX troll for quite some time. But what I want to ask you is, I saw somebody say in reference to their threads or some of the other big influencers that don't ever speak about HEX in any way, dunk on it for 24 hours after the SEC thing. And even if Pulse 1,000X's this bull cycle, will never say one word about it or anything like that. Admit wrong, nothing, acknowledge it in any way. But I saw somebody say, like, should we ignore those people when they do it, even though they are boosting the signal of PulseChain or HEX? They're like, don't engage with these guys. You're paying them by engaging with them and stuff like that. I don't know. I can see both sides of that coin. I really don't care that much because I know I just don't do Twitter. It's just not a thing I am into that much. But what do you think? I mean, like, do you think it's positive because they are boosting the signal? And if you want to, the more people are engaging, maybe the more people see the tweet. Or are you more of the mind that, like, I don't want Bob Lucas getting any of my potential, any revenue from Twitter based on what he says about my token? What do you think about that?
It's a fine line. I really think it's a fine line. I mean, because you're right, there are two sides to it. Um, on one hand, you ignore them and they kind of go away, but it may be an audience that we don't have in our, in our circle, and people may hear about it and look into it. What's this hex thing? What's he talking about? Um, and then the more engagement, obviously, the more it comes onto the timelines, and people's vision. They get to see it a little bit more. Um, on the other hand, yeah, do we want him to monetize it and just engagement farm? Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to the no, no news is bad news. Any news could be good news, no matter how good it is or bad. So, you know, yeah, six in one hand, half a dozen in the other. It's one of those. It's we're gonna have to see how it kind of goes, but I think you have to be selective. I don't think we should be going into their page bashing them. Maybe drop a couple good facts, and that's it. Just drop facts instead of argue. Um, that may be the better way. And once people realize that this community, you had the guy from Lamont from the movie,
Lamont Black, yeah.
yeah, who has really dug into the community, the code, everything like that, and mentioned, I can't tell you how many times how impressed he is with how smart the people are here, and how intelligent and helpful, and all, he goes on and says, I was very skeptical when I came in. I'm the guy that's trying to cut this thing down, and now I have to go into this cult-like group and defend myself. But once he started looking into it, you can kind of tell now that he's pretty much on our side, and he's understanding it more. He understands the T-shares, he understands the system, and the value. So, it's only going to take a couple of those to get their eyes on it and actually do their own research, if they do it well, to figure out that this is a pretty interesting group of people here. So it could help. Again, more eyes on it, the better. I just think we have to be strategic, careful about how we go engaging back sometimes.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And this ecosystem's too big to like control how everybody in the community is going to
Yeah,
act. So it's just, I'm more in favor of like, hey, if you're going to tweet about it and you have a big signal, go ahead and tweet about it. I don't
yeah,
care. I mean, like, we all know what you're doing. We know that you want clicks, and I mean, hey, it speaks for itself. It's like, Richard Hart, this ecosystem, the SEC stuff. It's all like everybody's gonna have an opinion on it, and it just shows that like that this ecosystem, there's a fever pitch behind it, and people have a reaction to it, which is a good thing overall. So
yep,
um
agree.
yeah, so that's kind of the socials and the Friend.Tech stuff. If you guys are here enjoying the stream, hit the like. We very much appreciate it. We're going to shift gears now into some of the main event and talk about, and we're going to get to the pDAI stuff, Sebastian. I saw you talking about that earlier.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not ignoring your comment, buddy.
yeah, we'll definitely get there for sure. So we want to talk about this SEC rewards program, and that we think it may be likely how the Richard Hart complaint was reported. So what do you know about this SEC rewards program for whistleblowers that do come to them with any kind of information they may have, regardless of how much they're bending the truth whenever they send it to the SEC? And I believe it is they actually do get some form of monetary reward
Yeah,
dependent upon how much money the SEC is basically able to extract from
sure.
said person, entity, whatever. So, what do you think the validity level is of that? This whistleblower program is how the Richard Hart complaint, really came to light, and what do you know about this program overall?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about it. What I did read, and it was I don't forget when it was, but I think they give 10 or 15% of anything that was over $1 million, I believe, is what it stated. Anything anything over $1 million that got payout, the whistleblower received 10 or 15% of that, which that's a substantial amount of money. What I can totally see why people would do it, and just see if anything could stick. Maybe even thinking that Richard would just settle, because he said that many a times about EOS. Whenever they had to pay the fine, he's like, "Well, they just paid a fine and moved on." So you know, I think it's bad. I think anybody could file suit against anybody, and if it goes anywhere, or if they just pay the fine, that person's being rewarded for being a snitch, man. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. I think you get a lot of mixed signals. Again, we don't have clarity to begin with, and now you're paying people to just throw false accusations. It muddies everything. I don't like it at all.
Well,
How
one
about
thing I
you?
want to say, well, and I think you just did this because it's natural to say this when you're discussing something like this. But a moment ago, you said like it incentivizes people being a snitch. Well, they're not really being a snitch, because the second part of what you just said is the actual truth. And it's to, muddy the waters of what really happened or what you think the product is, to report essentially falsehoods, as we've seen. The debate as to whether hex is a security or not, whatever, leave that up to them and all the different definitions they want to come up with every week or whatever. But in terms of like, oh yeah, Richard Hart with investor funds and things like that, I mean, we've talked about that. As far as we can see, literally on the blockchain, that's provably false. So and we've all talked about like how a lot of the complaint from the SEC reads like somebody who is totally uneducated on all of this wrote it. So it's like, are they taking literally, is there that much credibility given to one person who bought the top, sold the low, felt like they were scammed when HEX did what a lot of other tokens did in the last cycle, except better? Is it really, were they scammed, or was it just your terrible behavior that led to this, and you can't stomach that and figure that it must be, the somebody else's fault, and you want to tell the SEC?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you buy tops and sell bottoms, that's kind of not anybody's fault but your own. Unfortunately, like I said, I think this just kind of incentivizes those type of behaviors. When somebody doesn't like something, they can report it, no matter how true or not. And if it sticks, if any of it sticks, and they get some sort of settlement, they get paid for it. It's just, I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. But there's all kind of people out there, so.
It's definitely a terrible way to go about it. But I mean, like, that's why, it really always comes down to who wants it more, and what somebody's actual goals are at the end of the day. And if they, are collecting data based on, hey, we'll pay you if you come to us with something, and somebody who is just some loser who's reporting something that's a half truth or something like that because they didn't want to take responsibility for it. I mean, that versus somebody who has, employed or had people create a blockchain that lives and breathes this stuff every single day, it may not be much of a fight. So, we'll see how that goes. I don't want to necessarily get in. We've talked ad nauseum about will Richard try to settle? Will there be a long, how long will this last? I mean, we, among many others, have talked about that ad nauseum, so we don't need to necessarily go there. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely if you want to talk about scam, definitely a scammy type of program that the SEC does offer there, and we'll kind of see where we go from there. So,
Yeah.
as we have seen, so let's just kind of get into the main event here and talk about the PulseChain prices here, and are the lows in. So we are still in an overall downtrend here for sure. Again, as we talked about the prices at the beginning of the show, we're not far off from the lows. The day after the news of the SEC event on July 31st, so it would have been actually August the 1st that these prices came in, we had Pulse wick down to about 67% or so below the SAC rate. We're at 62% right now. The rest of the ecosystem has really followed suit. So we are right there. It's torturous at the moment for a lot of people. I mean, again, we've talked about balancing scrolling on Twitter, doom scrolling, seeing who's dramatic and who's, first bear market it is, and attitude and how they're acting. What do you think, though? We're going to get into this, and we're also going to check out a poll. We have some people in the chat talking about what the prices may be come the fall, because I know there's a lot of thoughts about the fall or winter of this year in the United States being a better time, you would hope, for the ecosystem. But what do you think, Ewok? I mean, the likelihood that the lows are in, because right now, I said it to you the other day, it just sometimes feels like the bottom's about to just fall out of this. Not that it hasn't already at one point, but, you really, anyway, like to DCA into what looks like the beginning of an uptrend and not necessarily, catch the falling knife, as we say, because you never know how far it's going to fall.
Yeah.
But at that same time, it's almost like any buy I'm making right now, I think, in the long run is going to be great. So what do you think? I mean, are we heading for new lows, or where are we going here?
Well, just the other day we had a big seller dumping a bunch. I think we talked about it on the last stream. I think he had done that right before the last stream, dumping batches of like 200 million at a time. I just saw the other day that same person is starting to buy back in. So that's definitely bullish. I think maybe, a lot of people do that. They'll sell big bags to get the price to wick, to hopefully have other people panic sell. And then they'll try to buy back in. I mean, it's a strategy that some people just, they enjoy it. They spread the FUD, and then they'll dump a big bag. You get that big candle like we see there on the chart. And then other people panic sell too. And then they slowly buy back in to hopefully get a better rate, end up with more. Now it doesn't always work that way. But sometimes they make out. And I think in relationship to where we are along the way with the chart compared to where Ethereum was at that time, I think you almost have to look, if you can find the information on how many original investors there were into Ethereum. I know they didn't do a sacrifice phase, and I don't remember.
They did an ICO.
It was an ICO. It was a pre-buy. Those people got it at what, 15 cents or something like that, and then it proceeded to dip a good ways. So, but the idea is how many people and how much volume was there at that point? I think Pulse probably has a lot more tokens out there for sale. I mean, we had some pretty big buyers, millions and millions of dollars out of the top even 100 sacrificers. I think they were almost all high six figures, if not more. So, that's a lot. I think it's just going to take a little bit longer to play out, but I think we're kind of in that zone right now. I think Ethereum was, what was it, 74 days or something like that when it's bottom, and now we're on day 90. So, I think that we're pretty close. Like I said, the big wallet that had sold that big bag, now they're buying back in. If anybody else has weak hands, we've got a couple green candles here. I know this is the daily candle. I know they're small, but you got to start somewhere. So it's looking positive. We might come down to this wick and double bottom, but hopefully that's about it. I don't see it going much further. If you are DCAing, do little bits at a time. And like you said, it never hurts to buy in on an uptrend, because if you start buying lower and it keeps going lower and you run out of capital, then it hurts even worse when the bottom does get in and you're not, you don't have anything left. So I think we're pretty close. I think sentiment will change, but again, if the Bitcoin markets do take another little tumble here, like we see how this monthly candle plays out here, will it affect Pulse? I don't know. I mean, they're not really tied together in any way. There's no liquidity between the two that ties them together. Could we kind of be away from that whole thing? Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But in my opinion, I think we're at the point now where kind of Ethereum was at its bottom. Could be another couple big sellers, but I think we're getting pretty close if we're not there already.
Yeah, and just looking at that chart there, I mean, I'm a fan of just looking at weekly, weekly candles. But I mean, that just to look at that as well. I mean, you obviously see when the SEC news happened right there.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Crypto Land here says Ethereum had 18 million ICO. PulseX is over 1.5 billion. So right there's that's kind of what I was getting at. I knew it was considerably higher, a lot more money, a lot more capital that was tied up, and I'm probably assuming even more time. And the time is the big thing, that people went without their money, which kind of urged them to dump whenever it launched, because again, they were over leveraged, and didn't expect to be 2 years until they got a product. So that definitely plays a lot into it. So, yeah, I mean, when you look at it like that, 18 million compared to 1.5 billion between the two, yeah,
I mean, it's a whole different world.
It is a completely different world.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because like the idea, like you just said, Ewok, about we know a lot of people kind of over leverage themselves with those sacrifices. And it's, you would think after that amount of time, now, if they were that irresponsible, maybe not, but you would think after that amount of time and waiting so long, that really makes, customers generally value the thing even more. Waiting with bated breath for something, it makes you value that product even more.
Right.
But again, if they really didn't handle their money well and really needed it, and it was that long of a gap, because it was nearly exactly 2 years since the PulseChain actual sacrifice began, until there was a product. So, I mean, you can't control what everybody does, but I think a lot of the maybe some of the people in the chat, the smaller fish in the ecosystem and stuff like that, have not sold. That's kind of the interesting thing. There are people that are sticking in there. That's really what's going to matter when we get to this bull cycle, is these people that have held, the smaller investors from the beginning. Not necessarily, I'm not saying everybody that's small, but the non-whale ones that are sticking this out, and then the influx of huge retail dollars as we get into 2024 and 2025. That's when I think we'll really see the movement. So
for sure.
Let me ask you, so referencing a poll that Sami did earlier, and I'm glad you guys are talking about this idea of the fall season here in the US in December of this year also, as far as where we could see the prices of this ecosystem. Are we looking at like just getting back to SAC rate by that point? Are we talking about it really maybe starting to move? It seems like forever ago. So, I mean, we forget that Pulse was actually double the SAC rate at one point for a short period of time, more towards when it really came out. But Sami had a tweet yesterday, and I always love to look at these different polls from people to see what bigger amounts of people are thinking. This has about 850 votes. What price do you think total HEX, so both of them combined, will be on December 31st, so the end of 2023? He had 4 options, and the one that won the majority at about 36% was still less than a penny. Okay, so right now, people think by the end of the year, HEX will still be combined under a penny. And keep in mind that it just went under a penny. So, very recently. So to me, I think that seems bullish by the end of the year. I mean, like, fading the crowd usually being something that works, for the fact that most people think that. Now, I will say the second category that won was 1 to 3 cents. But then after that, he had 3 to 6 cents. So for me, I definitely think we could, we got to remember, like, just a few weeks ago, we were at like a combined price of 3 cents. I mean, we had that 2 to 1 ratio while literally being about 2 to 1, back in June. And then obviously eHEX started to fall below that. And that's when the whole eHEX, pHEX narrative stuff started. But what do you make of that, Ewok? Because I think the majority of people still saying under a penny when we just got there right now, is huge recency bias. And I don't know, if to me, makes me more bullish on what we'll probably see as we get into the winter months.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this a lot. It's going to be boring. The bear markets are boring. There isn't a whole lot of action until you get really closer to the halvening, and that's not till April. So, we could easily, I think we could get in the between 1 and 3 cent range. That was my vote, and that's where I kind of saw things. I think once it bottoms, we do have a little bit of price up. People get tired. The sellers get exhausted, and they will eventually. And the other thing is that everything is so tied together with liquidity, that, the rising tide will rise all the boats. So once it does start to happen, you'll see a steady increase of all of the coins together. Um,
Right.
you know, the introduction of a stable coin is going to help. CST coin is still pretty new, right? There's not a whole
Yep.
lot of liquidity for that. That's going to help give us a floor once there's some liquidity pairs with the CST token. Once we get some liquidity in there, it's going to help even things out and not be so dependent on Pulse and PulseX. And when one thing moves, everything kind of goes. That's kind of what we need, is a little bit of a break. Now, on the other side of that, when Pulse and PulseX do start to run, it's going to really catapult the hex and pHEX, eHEX and pHEX both. So it's very reflexive. It's still new. Everything is new. Everything's being, there's so much stuff still being built. You got liquid loans coming. Well, that means people don't have to sell anymore when that gets launched. So you've got to think about all these things that are coming to the whole system, and how are they going to affect it?
Mm-hmm.
I, I think it's very bullish, but I think it's going to take some time, and I don't think all this stuff is going to be ready. That's why I say it's still going to be pretty boring probably until the end of the year. I could see a combination of between 1 and 3 cents. I think we could have a little run up, but I don't see it getting much further than that by December. So that's where
Yeah.
I'm at with it.
Yeah, 3 cents is about where I would land on that. And, you bring up a good point, Ewok, and I know this is not anything anybody wants to hear. Everybody just wants to see price go up and forget
Sure.
about it. But let's acknowledge that, this thing launched May 12th. So here we are, the 100 days basically,
Yeah.
since launch, and it's worked flawlessly. I mean, yeah, there's been, is there going to be single-sided staking on PulseX? Is there not? And there was a miscalculation with some of the incentives here and there. But as far, nothing's been down. Everything's worked perfectly. As you've just stated, a lot of the features have not even been rolled out yet. So when they do come, like right now, hey, if single-sided staking suddenly came out, which I don't know that right now would be a good time to do that, but
Why not?
when it, hey, I am not the guy to answer that question. All I am saying is if and when it does, people will be nuts, is
Yep.
all I'm saying. That's what I
Well,
do know. So,
it's
yeah.
bullish. It's very bullish, but yeah, you're right. It may not. I think the devs may be kind of put on hold for now as far as any kind of updates or anything goes. But it would be a big screw you to the SEC, I think, if they just kept doing whatever they're doing. I know there was some Ethereum updates rolled out recently that we have not seen yet, because that was one of the main reasons why that they did end up forking Ethereum instead of the BSC, was because they could just roll the upgrades out as soon as they were on Ethereum. So, I know
Yeah.
there's a couple to come. We'll see when those roll out, or to see, at least it would give us an idea, or if the devs are still working. I'm sure you could probably go into the GitHub and see activity. I haven't been in there. So if anybody has in the comments been in there and seen any activity, let us know.
Yeah, definitely for sure. So we will have those updates coming, and that's what's cool, is that they're not out yet. So definitely keep that in mind. Let's talk real quick, and then we're going to get into, this is a perfect segue, because the big man RH himself has just started a tweet storm with several different court rulings from the past that we're going to take a look at here, because we were going to talk about him for a moment, but about the hex on both chains, and this is the second time we've seen this. So with the initial SEC drop, and now here we are dropping again, you're starting to see the bands on those two and the liquidity come together, and that 2-to-1 ratio evaporating a little bit. And Sebastian has been absolutely nuts in the chat talking about this tonight, and thank you, Sebastian. We appreciate it. I'm with you. I think it's highly interesting. You're one of the few with the incentive or the idea to look at buying eHEX. And I understand it. I understand it completely. If you're looking at both of them and assuming that there will be liquidity bonding and that they will rise together at some point, whatever that means to you, you can make your own decisions on that. But as we've seen the prices come down, Ewok, we have started to see these two get a little bit closer together. Do you think that that is indicative of what may happen when we ever, if it does happen, someday get some kind of a slingshot up? Do you think we could see similar behavior when both these things start rising together as well?
Sure. Yeah, everything's tied together with liquidity. So it's really going to depend on how tightly, what I would love to see is, if they do kind of get a little bit closer, even if it's a 1.25 or a 1.5, I could see it being 1.5 to 1. I think that's a
Yeah.
solid ratio. You're looking at the value that PulseChain brings with the cheaper fees and everything like that. It should be a little bit more valuable. I don't know that it will ever be a 1-to-1 ratio. I don't think so.
Right.
If it does, then great. Who cares? So like I said, that's why we said keep both and you win either way. But who knows? Could ETH ever sling past the Ethereum hex? Could it ever sling past Pulse hex? I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't think so. I think that, like I said, the value proposition on Pulse Chain is still much better. Um, but if that does happen, when it does get to, or say it gets to 1.5, and then somebody piles a whole bunch of liquidity in between the two as a pair, um, it'll stay there. Like it will truly stay there. And it's going to be pretty hard to separate it. So
Right.
yeah, it could springboard up just as easily, and the bigger the number gets, obviously that 1.5 to 1 changes a lot, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at, if you're saying $20 for one and 30 for another, that's 1.5. So it's, but when we're talking cents, I think that's the smaller the cents get, I think it does appear to be a little bit, closer, easier to stay together. But, like I said, the further it goes up, the further it's probably going to get apart. But, it's yet to be seen what that ratio will end up. But sure, they're going to move up together just the same as they came down together.
Yeah. And we've really only seen that, again, it's been 100 days. So we've really only
Yeah.
seen roughly this 2-to-1 scenario and a little bit less than that. Actually, at one point, it was, there was only about a 30% difference. So that was around for a little while as well. So we're going to transition into this Richard Hart. Is him being more quiet, good, bad, ugly, whatever? We're going to get to that right now. If you guys are enjoying the stream, hit the like. We very much appreciate it. We do this every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Appreciate all of you guys being here for sure. And we want to talk about RH. So he just went on a tweet storm, and we'll look at these in a moment. Before I even do, though, you know what? Maybe it makes sense to actually look at these in real time first, and then we'll approach the actual question that we were going to ask here. So he's basically tweeting case law, which I imagine, yeah, definitely not reading these. These are huge. But that I'm imagining have something to do with what he may be facing. So multiple, and I haven't read these yet. This just came out. But what I can say is just making a snap judgment. I mean, I don't know what they all definitely say, but if they are something that would seem to support his case, I mean, he very well could be right, and then opposition and other people may just not give a shit, though. I mean, like there's plenty of case law out there that's like, hey, clearly the Supreme Court has already decided on this, so this is what you guys need to know. That doesn't mean that the enemy is going to back off or anything like that, obviously. But I haven't read these yet either, so I don't want to make any kind of snap judgment necessarily. So,
Yeah, this is the first I'm seeing it too. When you said that, I looked and saw some notifications on some of these. Now, he has been. Someone said if there was some sort of gag order placed, and him using AI to tweet for him,
yeah,
maybe that's what some of this stuff is coming from. But it looks like just more summaries of different rulings and yeah, like I said, I can't comment without reading through them, but it looks like there's.
well, this final one that he just sent is really the exclamation point. He retweeted, reposted his tweet from August the 2nd, where he said blockchains are a library. And this is one of the ones where he got they're very positive response. Obviously, blocks are people's writing, math, art, speech. Blockchain software is publishing software you use to publish the speech you've created in the public, and it goes on and on like that, basically saying, hey, it's a public good, something that's been created, it's there. And he just retweeted that one now and said, blockchain equals you do some math, you publish the results publicly with a timestamp, period. It is speech and publishing. How loudly must I scream it? It is peer-to-peer speech. It always has been. So, yeah, we know you're right. And there are many people that know you're right. And I'm sure a lot of these case laws would back up that you are right. But hey, we have government entities, believe it or not, and people every day that break laws without consequence and ignore case law, even Supreme Court case law. There's literally laws in this country right now that are upheld. Maybe I shouldn't call them laws, but there actually are statutes right now that are upheld, and there's a whole system in place that's basically an entire scam, if you want to call one a scam, that people carry out every single day, and we just put up with it and do it, and nobody does anything about it because nobody's powerful enough to do anything about it. So, yeah, I'll have to read into them a little bit more. But hey, it is good that he is active. I think that's one of the things that people, as we're going to get into here, are worried about. It's like, where is he? He's not streaming. He needs to acknowledge people because of the SEC thing. I want to get your thoughts on this first. I think we probably kind of echo similar sentiment. But do you think that him not being as visible as in past markets and things like that, with where everybody's at right now, with what's going on with the SEC, how bad is it for these investors, this ecosystem? And you specifically, the reason we put this in here, Ewok, is because you said to me the other day, like, there are some people out there that need a leader. So what did you mean by that? And what do you think that means for what RH should be doing, I guess?
Well, I hate to say it, but yeah, there are people that need that person telling them, almost, I hate to say telling them what to do, because he's not telling people what to do,
right?
But he's constantly educating, and I guess Twitter or X, whatever, is not the same as a live stream. You know, you get some of those 4 or 5 hour bangers that he used to put out on YouTube, and it was just so packed full of the information that he would preach constantly. And honestly, that's where a lot of the knowledge from this community came from. You know, he said things and educated so often. And I think some people need that. Like, they're afraid to make decisions, afraid to do their own research. They need that person telling them, you know, the right way, the wrong way, what to look for, what to stay away from. As scary as that can be, but I think people need that. And it's, you know, there are other people that don't really care, like myself. I know he's educated us well on what to look for, what to be on the lookout for, what not to get involved with. And, you know, there's still people out there chasing this shiny new object. It's clear when, you know, you don't have that person saying, guys, you should probably stay away from that. It's probably not going to end well. People listen. And, you know, I hate to say that it was that influential, but it was that educational, I think, is what it was.
Yes.
You know, it wasn't so much him saying, don't do that, as it was that he would also give examples of previous things that were just like that, that didn't end well. And, you know, again, there are people that need to be led. They can't lead. They have to be led. That's why you always have workers, right? Instead of the ones that go out and do their own thing. It's just, you know, it's a fine line that we have to draw, because, you know, again, he mentions how Satoshi left, but I'm still here. And I don't really think he'll ever abandon it. I just really think that he has been advised, you probably shouldn't say a whole lot, just in case. You know, better safe than sorry. And people are getting upset about it, and they know what's going on. Like, I just think it's silly to be upset right now. If none of this was happening and he was still quiet, then yeah, I could say, well, what's going on? Then it would be a little bit suspicious. But because we know what the story is, what's happening, you know, we don't know the details, but It serves perfect reason for him to keep it quiet. He's posting a bunch of facts on Twitter, which is good. Other cases I see, that he just did, and it speaks volumes if you really read it.
Yeah. In regards to like people that need a leader, yeah, you are right. And I'm literally not trying to put anybody down for this at all, because we've all been there at some point. But
Yeah.
yeah, there are going to be people that are like the cogs in the system, or the spokes in the wheel, or whatever it is that, help everything turn. And there's the people that are up top. There's got to be some kind of a pecking order, and things usually
Yeah.
sort themselves out that way over time. Now, the people that are that distressed about not seeing him all the time in the midst of this SEC stuff, I mean, have you not been involved in any kind of legal thing yourself ever, or even heard of someone that was involved in a potential lawsuit? This is standard fare. I mean, that's, and it doesn't mean that he's scared or he's running or this or that. Clearly he's not. I mean, this is why we're seeing these tweets, whether it's him or, whatever some of the AIs he was tweeting about yesterday. But, I think that it's important to realize that, yeah, this is something that's going to happen whenever you're under fire with a lawsuit like this. It doesn't mean he's running. It's just that you want to keep things on a straight and narrow, and not mistakenly say, because there's sharks in the water right now. They're out to get you. They want to get you at every turn. That's how court proceedings are. They're going to manipulate your words. They're going to twist this and twist that. So yeah, I don't know why people don't understand that, or why they don't, why they can't get that. But and then in terms of the other type, where you're saying, they just needed to feel like comfortable in the investment or whatever. I mean, like, to me, it's just then you're incredibly weak about this, and maybe you shouldn't even be involved in it, or any crypto for that matter, because this is happening. Hey, guess what? Newsflash: even though everybody likes to pretend that this is only happening to Richard Hart, HEX, PulseChain, the SEC has already named off like the top 10, 15 tokens and said they're all securities, even though they haven't taken concrete action yet or anything. So they are coming for you, whatever it is that you like. As long as Gary Gensler's there, or whatever whatever they're doing, these knee-jerk reactions to the XRP thing, which they're now appealing, they're just going to keep going, and you are going to be next. So dance on Richard Hart's grave all that you want to, BTC Maxis and all these people that are celebrating ETFs and things like that. They will come for you. So it doesn't end here. So I personally, I don't need to see Richard Hart streaming or anything right now. I think what he's doing right now is more than enough. We have something that's working. I think I feel positive about the outcome of whatever will happen with the SEC. And I think more money will continue to flow into this. I mean, it's one of the most advanced, newest blockchains that we have going, and it's got the best community in crypto. So,
and that brings me to another point that I just thought about. When this community was kind of just in its infancy, it was at the beginning of COVID. Everybody was kind of locked down in their homes. People started streaming, becoming friends, making relationships with people. And it really solidified, where we were at. And I just heard the other day, there may be some rumors of some of this stuff coming back, whether it be travel stipulations or masks or whatever it may be. And, who knows how that'll all play out, but it's interesting timing, right?
It is. Hey, we don't want to get demonetized. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know.
I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying it's interesting timing how this plays out. That it could re-solidify a community. I don't think we'll see lockdowns. I don't think people will put up with it this time like they did last. But
some people didn't put up with it last time, really.
Well, exactly. But I think less will. But if places go to a fully remote, you're going to have a lot of people at home. You already do, but you may have even more. It could be very bullish is all I was thinking about with the whole scenario, and see how it plays out. But could be interesting, a re-solidification of the community with a new chain and a new variant.
Well, you know what? Yeah, yeah. Hey, bring it on.
Right?
I don't know what cool name we'll get for the next one, but hey, you didn't even mention this. You didn't mention the best part, Ewok, and that would be if they do all that, printing money again. I mean,
Yeah,
that's really the big catalyst here. Yeah. So
sure.
hey, yeah, lock us down. Get
Right?
everybody at home.
Print
Send
more
out the
money.
stimmy checks again. I'll take it with Fed now. I'll use Fed now.
Yeah,
Send it to me.
it'll be
And
CBDCs. That's the problem.
hey, pump us. I don't give a shit about anything else. Just pump the ecosystem. I'm fine. Put us on lockdown now, please. We need to get this thing going. So yeah, I am with you 100% though. I mean, I understand. Look, I want to see Richard Hart streaming? Absolutely. Yeah, and those old streams are insane. The guy is super smart. Love hearing him talk about blockchain. Love reading some of his tweets and everything. Whether they're him or AI, like Sami has hypothesized. And hey, we talked about this today. Full circle. Crypto 7 calling out Sami for being AI, and now Sami saying Richard Hart's AI. So yeah, that's crazy scenario there. And shout out to Sami because he usually watches these on the back end if he's seeing this. But yeah, if Richard streams, it'd be great, but it's not something I think we need right now. And hey, just do what you need to do with this lawsuit going on. So, let's check out the pDAI thing. So let's see where we are on this. I look straight up. I haven't kept up with it. I'm one of those people. If you want to make fun of me, that's totally fine. My angle, the only way that I can come from the pDAI scenario and what is going on with it, will it peg? I know it had a dip with the rest of the market here the last couple of days, but for me, I understand the people that are upset. No, I shouldn't say that. Nobody should be upset with each other here. This is all one market. You're going to have some people that are messing with pDAI and some of the other, like the Thank You Richard Hart token and whatever else. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. I'm not saying they're affiliated. I'll be honest. I have not kept track of all of them. That's on me. Whatever. The PulseChain ecosystem prices are so suppressed right now that I'm still just worrying about accumulating that stuff. So, but as far as everything else, there's no reason for people to be at odds on this. Whether you're somebody bragging because of how much you're up on pDAI and dunking on other people, I don't think you really need to be doing that. And if you're somebody who believes that all of that's a waste of time and why aren't you acquiring the Richard Hart tokens and blah, blah, blah. There's no reason for you to say that either. People are using the ecosystem. They're using the blockchain. This is what's going to happen. There's going to be guess what? As the bull market picks up, people are going to be buying a lot of stuff that you think is way, way dumber than pDAI or anything else when the market picks back up. So what do you say of that angle with it, Ewok? And then I got nothing to offer. If you have anything on like the technical parts of it, please do, because I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm trying to pull up the chart here real quick so we can have some sort of I think this is where we want to be. There we go. So yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of pDAI. There's people think that it's going to peg to $1. It's not an we talked about this before. It's an algorithmic stablecoin that relies on a lot of things, including an Oracle, which we don't have. Yes, could it get to $1? It could, but it's not going to peg there. Like, it won't stay. There are going to be people that sell. It's just like any other coin. Like, it'd be like saying, well, once HEX gets to $1, it's going to stay there. Well, no, there's
Right.
nothing to keep it there. The mechanism doesn't work that way. If it does get to $1, I mean, hell, that's some pretty nice gains. It's going to take a lot of economic energy, I think, to get it there, because there's a lot of holders that bought a shit ton at very, very cheap rates. So, I'm not a fan of it. I don't think that we should be pushing it. If people want to buy it, that's fine. Personally, I don't really like it. But again, that's just my opinion. You guys can do what you want. I just would hate to see people get involved with it thinking it's going to go to $1 and stay there. And then somebody dump it all the way back down. You got people buying these at $1 at that point, and it's not going to stay. So
Right.
there's nothing to keep it there. I think we need to be supporting CST token. I think that's a much better, it is stable.
That's a Coast on ramp.
That's Coast, yes. And like I said, they're just starting out. Yes, it's not decentralized. It's not, it is TradFi because you are using your banks, but it's the on-off ramp directly into PulseChain. So, once Liquid Loans goes live, there will be an algorithmic stable coin with that as well. That will be tied to the price of Pulse. It will have a full backing of $1 worth of Pulse at all times. So again, these mechanisms are made to keep things pegged at $1, whereas pDAI is not. It's just a meme coin that people are pumping with the false hopium of it maybe one day getting to $1. And that's fine, but it's not going to stay there. So, just know that and make sure you guys understand what you're getting into. Buying it at 3 zeros, or what is it, six zeros now. So this is the pDAI Pulse.
I thought it was higher than that,
but it says 6 zeros 262. I thought it was higher than that too.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, I thought it was like
the last I looked, it was like
3/10 of a penny or something like that.
Yeah, I thought it was like 1,000x off of getting to $1 or something like that. So, which was, I mean, way higher than it had been. Yeah, I mean, it clearly has made ridiculous moves. And yeah, well, I think the most important thing you said, Ewok, is like there's no actual, like, yeah, it could stay at $1 if somehow the trading volume continued to just make it stay there. I don't know how that would happen. But what you're saying is there's nothing built in that's actually going to get it to be pegged to $1. Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. Could it get to $1? Yeah. Honestly, at this point, I kind of think it will. I just think like the meme of it and how many people are obsessed with it right now, I could see that happening, but also a prophecy I could see panning out is it just getting to $1, rejecting off there, and that's it, because that's just the big psychological point that everybody's talking about, So, yeah, are gains there to be made? Yeah, I think there probably are. Am I going to be making them? No. And, if you want to laugh at me and I missed out on it, okay, that's fine. But I think the most important thing to talk about here is what we must recognize for all the people that are infighting about this, that are living on Twitter and not doing anything else, it seems, is you have to understand that everybody invests in a different way. You're going to invest with what works best for your mind. There are people who, zooming out on all of this stuff, wouldn't invest in crypto if you paid them a fee for doing it. They're just not going to be people to do that. I mean, people aren't able to sleep at night. They don't want to educate themselves that much to see that, it's a little bit more safe than you realize. Yeah. So you have to understand, some people will do the swing trading and stuff like that. They will ride waves like this. B Roots is coming up in the pDAI conversation, of course, a lot, and things like that. I understand it. Like, some people, they're all about that. Some people, like myself, hey, everything is so down right now. Again, I just want to concentrate on still buying those core coins. That's just what I want to be doing right now. So no hate on anybody that is messing with the pDAI stuff or any other memes or anything like that. Absolutely not. I think those people are ridiculous that are criticizing those folks. It is what it is. You're not going to stop it. Matter of fact, when you try to stop it, you're probably perpetuating it. So whatever you think you're accomplishing, you're not doing it. Just look at it like a market, and buy what you want to buy, and stop trying to tell people what to buy.
Yeah, and this comment, like, I don't even care what the right chart is. I don't care what the price is. It's all about the technicals of the coin. There is nothing to peg it to $1. That's my point.
Yeah, that's all you meant by that.
That's all I'm saying. I don't care if people buy it. I don't think, like I said, could it get to $1? Sure. Would, at that point, the only thing that would save it would be MakerDAO stepping in and creating some sort of oracle or something to have it talk to be. And if that's what you're hoping for, I don't know why they wouldn't just activate DAI or issue DAI to the PulseChain. I think it would be done completely different, and I don't think they would use this coin. So either way, Shaq O'Neal, my point wasn't, I don't care what the price is right now. All I was saying was there's not even there's nothing to peg it. So That's
Well, keep in
all I
mind,
have to say about that.
and you know, right here, this comment from Shaq O'Neal. Come on, old guys, please stop it. This coming from a 51-year-old and Shaq O'Neal. Okay, so you know, I don't see you on the court anymore, and I do want to shout out, you know, for Shaq to be in our chat tonight. I am honored, privileged that he is here, and surprised that he's investing in pDAI, to be frank. But he is. So
Yeah,
you never know what you're going to find in crypto. Let's leave off with these couple points.
can't hit a free throw.
You can't hit a free throw. No. But yeah, let's head off on these couple points. Ewok, you wanted to talk a little bit about the PH tokens, and I'm going to pronounce Piteas wrong. Am I wrong there?
Well, I've heard it pronounced Piteas. I've heard it pronounced Piteas. So I'm not actually sure the right pronunciation. But let's talk about it. It's a aggregator for, you know, the entire ecosystem, which is pretty cool. Well, let's. I want to pull it up because I'll show you what it does. So give me a moment. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for that.
All right. While Ewok is pulling that up, everybody, I assume, who's going to tune into the Republican debate tonight on Fox News? So hit up the chat if you're going to watch that, or if you're going to watch apparently Donald Trump doing an interview with Tucker Carlson on X tonight. Which one will you be watching? Just out of curiosity, or neither, which is likely what I plan to do. But
right,
would like to hear people's thoughts. But anyway.
Okay, here we go. Let's share this tab. And I just pulled up a random wallet. But so I want to show you what this does. So instead of just going to PulseX, let's zoom in here a little bit. I'll show you. Instead of just going to PulseX to do a swap, say you're going to switch Pulse into, we'll give you guys some Atropa here. Since you were talking about it.
There you go.
And say we want to do 100,000 Pulse. And let's do 100,000. So if you click here and say show route, it's pretty cool because what it does, and I don't know if you can see this or not. I'll zoom in a little bit.
Zoom in a bit. There we go. That's looking better.
I lost the route though. There we go. So it shows you that 67% of that is on PulseX V2, 1% from pHEX. Oh, now it changed. So Easy Swap is another one. So it constantly changes to find you the best route. Now, if most of the volume is on PulseX, then that's where it'll take it from. But let's say we do something like, let's say we switch. Let's do this. Let's go HEX. We'll do 100,000 HEX. Oh, no. 100,000 HEX. $640 for something different. Let's just do Hedron and see where it takes us. 100,000 HEX for 3 billion Hedron. So when we look at the route, you know, it's pulling from PulseX V2. It's going to go through PulseX V2 into Wrapped Pulse, and then Wrapped Pulse into Hedron. And then on PulseX version 1, it's going to go HEX to eHEX, eHEX to Pulse, Pulse to Hedron. So, you know, it constantly changes, but it
just changed like 3 times.
Yeah. So basically, whenever you hit it, it takes that route, and it's doing, you know, here, I guess it's only showing 68. There we go. So yeah, it's pretty cool how it aggregates everything. It finds the best bridge, the best route, and you know, it optimizes the output. It figures in the gas cost of each step and everything like that to give you the best buy. So it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
You know,
and you're seeing the details beforehand. Like, I mean, sometimes with the auto router stuff, you'll just see it
after the fact.
Pulse scan or whatever afterwards.
So this is pretty cool how it breaks it down. Now, I don't know. I still don't know. Maybe there's not that much out there for liquidity wise, because it doesn't look like the 65%, 6.6 and 5.5 doesn't equal 100. So I'm not sure what's happening there. There might be some pretty good slippage.
Maybe.
It is maybe what's happening. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty cool to bring up. And I don't know if you guys knew about it or not. But it just launched, like I said, last week. We've got the 9-inch exchange. I think I saw earlier today that it came out. So there's all these different things that are just part of the ecosystem. It's all starting to bloom, starting to fill out nicely. I'm super impressed with the things that the community has done that have turned out to be pretty damn cool. So
yeah, I agree. And that's just the start of it. I mean, like, yeah, those two, and then of course, we had somebody mention liquid loans earlier, which I know a lot of people were hoping would already be out by now. But there's so much more to come, so many more things people are working on, and that's I actually really enjoy watching Walrus liquid loans stuff on YouTube.
yeah.
I mean, his channel's kind of he just goes for a walk around the block for 5 minutes or whatever. But hey, he keeps me kind of lazy. Him and Ben Cage have both been doing a great job with this lately, but it really keeps me kind of tunnel vision, lasered in on everything when there's so many things to get distracted by. I think that's what people really need right now. So definitely.
And Sebastian brings up a good point too with all these other, we know PulseChain is going to have competition, but it still routes a majority of things back through PulseChain for the buy and burn. So yeah, good point. Even though there is competition, this is a good thing to kind of point things in there, but still give you the best rate. If it's not 100% on PulseChain and you can get a better deal by mixing, it still buys and burns. It still gives you the best deal. It's a win-win for everybody. So pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely is. And again, like you said, it still is the majority PulseChain.
Yeah.
I wanted to just finish off with shouting out. So we got yet another new HEX front end that, man, for my money, I mean, looks wise and everything, the amount of data on there, absolutely one of the best. Hexologist, I saw tweeted about this the other day. Richard endorsed it and tweeted about it shortly thereafter, or maybe before, I don't know. But simply hexcrypto.com. Can't really mess that up. I just put it in the chat for everybody. You got the ETH mainnet on there, the PulseChain mainnet, testnet v4 is even still up there. Connect your wallet, buy, transfer, stake away, basically everything you want to do. It looks terrific. I mean, to me, it's one of the most aesthetically pleasing ones that is out there. I don't know if you you are sharing, sweet. Take a look, guys, if you want to check it out. I mean, hey, people were complaining not too long ago about the actual HEX official site. It's since been fixed and I've used it, but switching between the two networks on the actual site being kind of a chore and a bear to do. We have all these other front ends that other people are creating. You don't need Richard Hart. You don't need the first ever created website to necessarily have it. Is it nice that it does? Yeah. But I mean, this looks terrific. So kudos to whoever created this. I think it's amazing and definitely one that I'm excited to use. So yeah.
Yep. And it shows all of them too. Like, it is kind of weird because I connected the other day just to take a look. And it shows Ethereum mainnet, PulseChain mainnet. These don't go away when you connect, like when you're on PulseChain. This doesn't go away. So your Ethereum side stays there. So it's a little bit, I don't know, there's almost too much. Whereas I would only rather see the network that I'm on, because I was like, why is this stuff here still here? But it just doesn't go away. It just fills in the data on whichever chain that you're connected to. So
that makes sense. Yeah. But still looks very, very good.
Great. Yeah, it's still good.
Looks like I think it's the exact font from the HEX website too. It looks exactly the same to me. So
it might be. It might be.
So really good stuff. Again, people always making new things, which is very, very cool. That's about going to wrap us up tonight. I mean, just kind of finishing up on what we were talking about. Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether the lows are in for PulseChain. I mean, again, yeah, I like to feel a little bit more comfortable DCAing into a definitive uptrend. We definitely don't have a definitive uptrend yet. And would it surprise me if we see new lows if for only even a brief amount of time? No, I wouldn't be that surprised. So, keep your head on a swivel out there for sure. If you are somebody who has, none of us are immune to it. I mean, you're going to have these very bad days where you can't get yourself out of it. Watch some of those creators that I just talked about a little bit ago. If you like our videos, whoever it is you like to watch to keep you just centered, focused on this, sometimes, hey, misery loves company. And that's not even an insulting thing. I mean, like sometimes it's good to commiserate with things that are going on to get yourself through it. Because sometimes just simply lasting, talked about this last week, but just lasting, seeing the thing until the end and just continuing to march on without seeing the result every single day and just waiting for it. Not a lot of people are able to do that. So just keep that in mind as we go throughout this. So,
yep. And I do agree with Shaq. I think we might have a little more pain. Hopefully not much, and hopefully not too bad. But I still feel that there may be a couple of sellers that we got to shake out yet. So, I do agree. I think we could see a little more pain. I hope we're approaching bottom. I think we're getting close, but just hang in there. It'll be over before you know it.
Yes. Yeah. This will all be a thing of the past eventually. So just hang in there. Hang in there, everybody. So, hey, we want to thank all of you. Hit the like on your way out tonight. If it's your first time watching us here, we do this every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love you guys. Thanks for all the chats tonight. It's been awesome. Really fun stuff the last few weeks. We'll see you next week right here on the Creed of Crypto Podcast.